2 weeks ago, we ran a segment on our show looking at the right to sex, featuring one of our more memorable guests, the sexual sexagenarian writer and blogger, Wendy Salisbury.
Because a woman of my age, 10 or 15, 20 years ago, would be expected to just be a grandmother. Well, I am a grandmother. I'm a very active grandmother. I look after and help with my grandchildren, and I thoroughly enjoy that. But, you know, I've done my procreation, and now I'd like recreation, and my choice is to have that with younger men.
Wendy Salisbury exercising her right to sex. But what about the right not to have sex? And by this I mean, what if you're not at all interested in sex? What if you are, in fact, asexual?
For me personally, I'm not sexually attracted to anyone at all and never have been, and don't imagine that I will be either.
Nathan Royle is 21 years old and lives in Adelaide, Australia. He's one of a growing number of people around the world who now describe themselves as asexual. In Nathan's case, it doesn't mean he hasn't experimented with sex, because he has. It's just that he doesn't desire it, he doesn't like it, and he doesn't want any more of it. This is the first time he's spoken about his feelings in public, as he only came out as being asexual a few months ago. I asked him why he'd even had sex, if it wasn't something he really wanted to do.
A couple of reasons, peer pressure being a part of it, and because I thought I had to try it to see what it's like, and I thought that there was a possibility that only after trying it could I be interested in it, and kind of proved myself wrong on that point.
How old were you?
My first experience was at 17, so by today's standards, I could be considered a late bloomer anyway.
Who approached whom?
The experience was that I was at a house party. I stayed the night, and there were a couple of girls sharing the room next to me, and they both approached me, and I thought, wow, 2 girls at once, this is every hetero guy's fantasy, right?
Right.
So I thought this would be an amazing first experience, and yeah, it really wasn't. It was a bit overwhelming. I mean, asexual doesn't mean you don't have a libido or can't experience sexual arousal, but the kind of awkwardness and my feeling of being out of place and not relating to what was happening kind of overtook any physical sensations that may have been happening. Like I wasn't there at all. I kind of detached myself from what was happening. I guess I'd liken the experience to being underwater and you hear someone above the water trying to say something to you, but the sound as it carries through the water becomes very muted and distorted, and that's basically how everything feels.
How many times did you try before you sort of came to a conclusion that this wasn't for you?
4 times in total. After my first 2 experiences, all with girls, I'd recognised the fact that I'm not attracted to women at all. So of course my thinking then was, I must be gay. If I'm not attracted to women, the only other possibility is that I'm attracted to men. And you know, at that time, it never even entered my head at all that I could possibly be attracted to neither.
And how'd it go?
Not well either. Pretty much the same kind of situation as my first 2 experiences.
Did you find yourself avoiding certain situations?
Yeah. When parties came up, or it's kind of an uncomfortable position to be in for someone who's asexual and wants to kind of avoid anything where they might be propositioned or approached for sex.
How old were you when you decided to call yourself asexual?
9 months ago, I started realising that I wasn't attracted to anyone, but I didn't have a name for it then. I just didn't really think about it much. I mean, my friends often joke that I was asexual and didn't really pick up on the word until I looked online and found a website, asexuality.org, and I read some of the stories and realised that a lot of the things they went through applied to myself as well.
How did you feel when you found that website?
Relieved, mostly, to learn that there are other people who feel the same way. There's a name for it. It really gave me a sense of vocabulary about my feelings. I could, start describing how I felt, or in some cases didn't feel, and to know that it's kind of normal to be asexual. It's part of the normal spectrum of sexualities.
Nathan, let me just wheel back a little bit in time.
Sure.
How did being this way affect your adolescence?
during high school, in my teen years, I never quite identified with all the talk about sex that everyone does, not really relating to what other people were talking about, which kind of put me at the edge of social groups.
Well, how did you feel when your friends and peers talked about sex? Because that conversation comes up a lot at that age.
Oh, yeah, a lot. Other people saw that I was less experienced or had less feelings about it, and you kind of get that stigma of being a virgin. It's not looked at too favourably by a lot of people these days.
So, how did you compensate for all this? What did you do?
In my last year of high school, I actually spent a lot of time practicing my saxophone in the music room, including recesses and lunches. So I did end up avoiding quite a bit of social contact in my later teen years.
A lot of people think of saxophone as a pretty sexy instrument.
Yeah. I always get comments. I go, "Oh, saxophone, what a sexy instrument." And I go, "Yeah, it's a piece of brass shaped like the letter J, and it makes a noise. What's sexy about that?"
Okay. This is Nathan playing one of his own compositions. It's called Paro.
Music plays perhaps a bigger role than anything else in my life. It's what I want to do with my life, and so many reasons I identify with it. One of the reasons is channeling emotions. That's probably the main reason why I spend so much time trying to write music.
So it's not just a big piece of brass shaped like a J.
Oh, that's yeah, no, it isn't. I can't even begin to imagine my life without music. I imagine it'd be a lot less colourful, a lot harder to express myself.
Have you actually come out as being asexual?
It is something I'm very open about. At uni, everyone was kind of talking about their own experiences and how they can't get dates, that kind of thing. Standard university conversation, it's all relationships. And someone turned to me and said, "What about you? I never hear you talking about your love life or your sex life." And I go, "Well, I don't really have one." They go, "Why not?" And I say, "I'm asexual." And, you know, whenever I say that to someone, I get a bit of a funny look, and they go, "What, you reproduce asexually? You split yourself in two and there's another one?" And I go, no, that's not what it means.
And then you explain what it means.
Yeah.
And then what did they say?
I get a wide range of reactions. People go, "Okay, yeah, I can see that," and are quite accepting. But then you get a lot of, "You just haven't met the right person yet." That's probably the most common reaction. The worst is probably, "You must have had some trauma in your past that's put you off sex."
Did you tell your parents?
Yeah, they were fine with that. They understand that the way I feel is important, and it's just the way I am. They accept it as a perfectly natural thing.
Nathan, do you think that you can have a really intimate, really deep relationship without also having a sexual relationship? Is that possible?
I certainly think it is. I don't have any justification for that, of course, but that's how I feel. There's a term that's used, intimate friendships, which is a very close friendship, which is almost romantic in nature, but not quite, I'd say.
Do you ever get afraid that being asexual might also mean that you will end up alone?
As for a long-term romantic partner, if I find someone, that would be great. But if I don't and I end up living by myself without, I guess, a significant other, I don't really see that as being a big problem.
Nathan Royle talking candidly with me from Adelaide, Australia.